tuning up your work week. It's MRN Motorsports Monday, presented by Outback Steakhouse and brought to you by Hercules Tires and Grunt Style Apparel. Now, for the latest NASCAR news and opinions, and even better hair care tips, here's Woody Cain and Joey Meier.
MRN Motorsports Monday comes your way after the weekend that was at Bristol Motor Speedway. A triple header, trucks, Xfinity, and Cup all running. Kyle Busch does not win his third in a row. His brother Kurt does, and he gets his first victory of the season on the Xfinity side. Kyle Larson, the guy, Kyle's supposed to make people mad when he wins. He's a Cup driver, right? But that didn't happen. We'll talk a little bit more about that later on. And on the truck side, Johnny Sauter wins the race, and the playoff field is now set for the Camping World Truck Series as they get set to head to Canada this weekend for their first playoff race. I'm Woody Cain. He's Joey Meier. We're brought to you by Outback Steakhouse. Kevin Harvick gets another top 10 finish. You just look back through, how many times has he not delivered on Bloomin' Monday?
Well, we are 25, 24 races in, I think all but 4 races. You got a couple of Daytonas, a Charlotte, and a Fontana event. And you see him there clearly sitting right there in the top 10. Had a rough night, had a loose wheel earlier in the evening, got a couple laps down, battled back, ended up getting back on the lead lap late in the race and made little Joey here very, very happy because he was almost going to be outside the top 10, but those guys, he was the highest runner of the big 3, as we call it. Mm-hmm. He had a very good evening.
Tough night for the big 3.
Tough night, but good performances. Mm-hmm. And that's what, you can walk away and go home okay if you were running really good.
It's different if you just run like crap all night.
Like we did. We were terrible.
Yeah.
Everybody asked me, how you going to do, man? We're really good. We had a really good practice session. Everybody thought we were going to be really good, and they were concerned about the 22's speed. Well, the race starts, and the 22's fast, and we're not, and it's really very confusing, that track, because, again, it just shows you what a difficult track it can be to get a hold of. But the big 3 really had good running cars. Kevin Harvick had a fast car. Kyle Busch, my goodness, 3 laps down, getting involved in the first wreck, still had a chance to win, and then him and Martin Truex get together. Truex spins out, and his night's over, but he was running second at the time.
Yeah.
So those nights are okay to handle because, again, your performance was good, but your finish was bad.
Something out of your control.
Correctly, yeah. And Joey's happy. Go get your bloomin' onion, little free bloomin' onion.
Can little Joey eat a whole bloomin' onion by himself, you think?
Yeah, it's like 3,000 calories.
Wow, I'm thinking little Joey can handle it.
He can share it.
He's pretty tough.
He can just share it.
Go in and check out their steak and lobster specials they've got going on right now as well at Outback Steakhouse. Tell them Motorsports Monday sent you by.
If the playoffs started now.
They do in the trucks.
Exactly right. We'd have Johnny Sauter leading that group. Man, he's got an amazing season those guys have had. You've got the youngster Stuart Friesen, who's moved over from a race team and a couple different race teams, having a great season as well. Brett Moffitt, man, where'd he come from, right? Mm-hmm. Truex brother Ryan Truex gets out of that truck. He goes Xfinity racing. Brett Moffitt hops in. Boom, 4 wins. Noah Grayson, who keeps talking about KBM. Ben Rhodes. Again, look at all the guys in this field that are really good. Interesting thing, no rookies in the playoffs this year, which is kind of a unique situation that we haven't had in the past. Last year we had 2 or 3, but no rookies are in the season top 8 playoff run, which starts in Canada, which is kind of cool to start the race.
A road course race.
It's exactly road course. That should work out well.
Yeah, we'll find out the way that one's been going over the past few years. It's had some high drama at the end of the last, 3 times we've been there for sure. Big program coming up here on MRN Motorsports Monday. We'll recap all the action from Bristol. We'll look ahead as the Xfinity Series also goes road racing. They head to Road America. That's always a fun event. And as we mentioned, the Truck Series heads up to Canada to race at Canadian Tire Motorsport Park. It's all ahead on MRN Motorsports Monday. Stay right there.
I'm not blooming good, I'm blooming great. Put a shrimp on the barbie and sizzle my steak. Woo, I want that onion to bloom, and it get in my senses like a sonic boom. No rules, just right. So bold, so nice, and I'm so ready for that Outback steak tonight. Outback Steakhouse, that's what it's all about. Outback Steakhouse. Blooming great.
I'm former crew chief and STP auto expert Steve Letarte. Does your engine feel like it's down on power? It could be caused by deposits on fuel injectors, engine valves, and combustion chambers. An easy way to help clean up your fuel system and restore lost power is through the gas tank with STP Ultra 5-in-1 Fuel System Cleaner. One bottle contains 3 times the amount of cleaning agents versus the leading premium gasoline to help keep your engine running strong. STP, inside every great machine.
One bottle contains 3 times by weight the amount of cleaning agents and 35 gallons of the leading premium gasoline.
Kyle Petty here. My friends at Click & Close, the official mortgage provider of NASCAR, have stepped up this year to support Victory Junction through the fastest lap of the race program on NASCAR radio. So join our team. Go to clickandclose.com/NASCAR today to donate $43 or more and help us give the gift of camp to children with serious medical conditions. That's clickandclose.com/NASCAR and just look for the Victory Junction logo. Thanks to Click & Close and NASCAR Radio for their support this season.
I'm Kevin Harvick, and it's another Bloomin' Monday. Ask for your free Bloomin' Onion tonight at Outback Steakhouse. Now it's back to Woody Cain and Joey Meier.
All right, Kevin, head over to Outback Steakhouse, get that free Bloomin' Onion today. It's Bloomin' Monday, another top 10 finish for Kevin Harvick. He's been doing it all season long. We mentioned Kurt Busch having a difficult time. 53 race winless streak was broken by his victory at Bristol Motor Speedway. Here's what he had to say afterward.
We were doing some numbers, and the last time we were in Victory Lane here was probably most of these people were in high school. So how does it feel to be locked in for the playoffs now with this big win?
Did you replace the batteries in your calculator? Probably wore it out. It's been a while, and I'll tell you, this track brings out the best in everybody, and just to come here, to feel that Saturday night atmosphere and racing under the lights, it brings you back to the roots. And to have Billy Scott and has your first win, short track racer that grew up going through all the different tracks, and then when you come to the holy grail of short tracks, you want to win it. And so I'm just proud of his effort, the whole team. And I'm always a little bit more nervous when my dad's at the track. He's watching, he sees every move, and there's things that you do on restarts that he taught me from the beginning. And it's just the Saturday night atmosphere is family, and it brings out the best in you, and I'm glad we were able to deliver tonight. I mean, the race was incredible. Every time I looked in the mirror, it's somebody different. Restarts, I look in the windshield, it's somebody different. A ton of fast cars tonight.
There you go. Kurt Busch gets the victory, and Billy Scott as crew chief. First victory for him. Always good to see first-time winners, whether it's a driver or a crew chief. And don't forget, you can get the winning die-cast of Kurt Busch's Monster Energy car from Bristol, as well as all the race-winning die-casts and others available at planbsales.com. And they're not doing a different version of Kevin Harvick for a change.
For a change. We seem to forget that Kurt Busch's last victory came at the Daytona 500 in 2017.
Yeah.
He's in a contract year. There's rumors swirling around where he's going. Mm-hmm. This puts him back in really the control of his destiny, because whenever you win a race, people remember you just won a race, and now they want you on their team.
Position of strength now for him in negotiations.
Yep, we're talking about over a season of races ago that he won a race again, like 50-something races, I believe, to where he got back to Victory Lane a year ago in February. It's kind of where the two-car is now. We're still looking for our first win. Our last win was October of Talladega. So you never know, man. You never know when the last win is until you get another one, or until you don't win again.
Right.
Jimmy Johnson's going through that streak right now. We saw Dale Jr. go through these streaks. Brad Keselowski now coming up on a year in October looking for those wins. But you never know when the last win is until you win again, and then everybody reminds you, hey, your last win was Daytona 500.
Yeah, just like in the clip
Hey, you
there,
haven't won here in Bristol. Well, the guy's won 6 times at Bristol. He's done okay.
He even admitted, though, since the change at the track, it's been difficult for him.
And that's exactly what Brad Keselowski has said. He was very good there. He's got 2 victories in an Xfinity, Busch, whatever the season was at the time. But they've changed the track, and you have to adapt to it. Guys like Kyle Larson have adapted very well to it. Kyle Busch has adapted. Truex has adapted. Clip Boyer had a great night. Really ran up front, and then Kurt Busch all night long ran really good up there. So kudos to those guys. 30 wins in a career. Which we're starting to tally wins now towards the end of the season, because we had 2 drivers announced this week that are not coming back next year, Casey Kane in the Cup Series, and then, of course, Elliott Sadler. So now when we start seeing drivers retire, we really start relishing the number of victories, and Kurt was able to round out the nice even number of 30 with his Bristol win.
Yeah, and he talked about how that was a goal that he had, that particular number, and now that he's finally hit it, there's only, and keep in mind, the playoffs actually start at his home track at Las Vegas. Yeah, let's talk about playoffs. We are at the playoffs. All right, let's talk a little on-track, off-track action where we discuss some things going well in the sport and some things not going quite so well. let's start with off track this time. For you, what's off track?
Off track, every time we see a Kyle in the Xfinity Series and Kyle Busch wins the Xfinity Series, people absolutely, their heads pop off because we have a Cup star ruining the series. Well, I've said it on this show. You've agreed with me, which is an enamored idea
about
to begin
this, I
with.
do
Exactly.
agree with you, yeah.
But what we have is we have Kyle Larson winning, and people were clamoring the fact that Kyle Larson finally gets to win at Bristol in the Xfinity Series. Really?
Yeah, he's a Cup guy.
He's a Cup guy. He's a full-time Cup guy. I'm all for Cup guys running in the series. We used to go back and forth, and it was the greatest thing in the world.
And we ask all the Xfinity guys when we have them on the show, and to a man, they say, yep, bring them on.
But the problem exists. It's the hypocrisy is what I'm talking about. When Brad Keselowski, Joey Logano, and Kyle Busch, who aren't fan favorites, they have a huge fan base, but they're not the people's champion as we have in other drivers. They're not the Dale Earnhardts and the Chase Elliott's. But those guys, they win, and all of a sudden it's the worst thing in the world for the sport. We've got to change rules and everything. Kyle Larson wins in the sport, and all of a sudden, golly, it's the greatest story in the world. Let's be real when we talk about we don't like certain drivers in this sport or in this series or whatever. You just don't like those drivers. It's irrelevant.
Right.
I got news for you. Guess who's running Richmond in a couple of weeks? Dale Jr.
Oh.
Could you imagine?
Yeah.
Could you imagine him going in there and past Cup Series regular going into the sport?
People will love it
They
if
will
he
love
wins.
it. Exactly right. And it's good for the sport. I get it. But let's be real when we start talking and calling into the NASCAR stations and going, we got to change these rules. These Cup guys got to be limited. As long as it's your favorite driver, it's okay. Kyle Larson did an amazing job. He should have won the Xfinity race a number of times there at Bristol, and I'm happy for him as well. But all drivers belong in all series to get good drivers, young drivers. That's Christopher Bell is learning. I saw something on, or listened to Bagley say something this morning. He's learning at the heels of champions, Christopher Bell. And the only way he gets better is to race guys that are better.
We talked to him on NASCAR Live last week, I believe it was, maybe the week before, about this particular topic. And one of the things that Bell said is, you know what, the reason I'm so intent on having those guys race against, A, it makes me better to race against them, but B, even if they're not in the race, I'm still having to beat those cars. Those particular cars are put together by Cup-affiliated teams. They're really good cars, really good organizations, and he makes the point that I'm still having to beat some of the best cars anyway, so there might as well be a Cup guy in it. And I get the whole point about limiting the races, particularly in the Dash for Cash events and the playoffs. You don't want, and the last race before the playoffs start. You don't want guys taking away the spotlight from the guys who are running from a championship. So I certainly get that. For me, off track is the incident. I don't know how many of you heard about it, but after the race, Kyle Busch and Martin Truex Jr. had gotten together. Kyle came from 3 laps down, got all the way back to second, and you'll talk about that here in a moment. And then he and Martin Truex got together. Kyle took the blame for it in his TV interview and other spots, other interviews after. So he leaves the track. He's with his PR person, and they go out, and he's signing autographs. Doesn't have to. He could have just blown on by and gone on to his motor coach and gotten out of Dodge. He didn't. He hung around, signed autographs. Well, a fan confronts him, and it turned into a little bit of a physical altercation to the point where the PR rep got between Kyle and the person. The other person, the fan, got hauled away by the cops and I believe got arrested and charged. We'll find out more about that in the coming days. But here's the thing. Fans who think that's cool to get up in a driver's face and give him grief, yell from the stands all you want, but if you get up in somebody's face and turn that into a physical confrontation, what's going to happen is you're going to make the powers that be take away the access that fans have to drivers now, which is one of the coolest things about NASCAR. This kind of thing, if it continues, is going to force them to do something to limit that access to keep these incidents from happening.
You've crossed the line when you cross the physical fence and you're getting in a physical confrontation, you have physical contact. Again, people feel like if they buy a ticket in the seat of the stands, they have the authority to throw and yell and flip people off and cuss and scream, but there's a fence separating you from that driver. The driver goes out and he's nice enough to sign autographs. If you don't like that driver, walk away, turn around.
Right.
Be the bigger.
Wait for your guy to come
Exactly right. But to get into a physical confrontation, all it takes is for the old one bad apple spoils the bunch mentality, for them to completely draw a line where there is no physical interaction between drivers and fans, and that will really hurt the sport.
All right, let's move to on track. What's going well in Joey's world?
Very, very short process. We mentioned about it earlier. The Big Three really had good nights. We didn't get to see the top finisher of the Big Three was 10th and with Kevin Harvick because you get to get your free bloomin' onion. but Kyle Busch's performance was amazing to watch from the spotter stand. And unfortunately, he was coming through the field, and he was one of the drivers that I had to pay attention to because he was marching by everybody, passing, going 3 laps down early in the race with one of the first incidences, ripped the back bumper off, cars tore up, beating and banging, and he drove back to third. Yeah, he got
and almost to second.
He was going for second, him and Truex. Again, if you understand Bristol racing, that was one of those slide job timing. He got in behind Truex a little too tight, clipped him. He didn't want to do that. Trust me, he did. There was no reason that much time in the race for him to wreck Martin Truex. But what's overshadowed was how good his actual car was. And that's scary from a competitor standpoint, knowing
even as beat up as it was.
Exactly right. But when you start looking towards the playoffs and you seeing who we're going to have to beat, it's not who you're going to have to beat. It's those 3 are beating us all the time. But their performances were overshadowed, specifically Kyle Busch's. So kudos to the big 3 because they are really strong. We have 2 more races with Darlington and Indy before our playoffs start, if the playoffs started now. And then we're really going to have to get we're working hard to get to them. But kudos to Kyle Busch because he really came back and had a great night, even though his finish didn't show it.
Absolutely he did. That car was wicked fast. For me, on track is the call by NASCAR. They have a rule now where if they give you 24 hours notice, they can move the race time forward or backward to try and get around some weather concerns. They did that. Had they not done that, I don't know that we would have gotten all the way to the finish of that race. As I was leaving the track, I had some other work to do before I left the track, but as I was walking to the parking lot, the rain started. Before I could even get out of the parking lot, it was pouring at Bristol. Had they not moved that start up an hour, I don't think we would have made it to the finish.
Yeah, and then if you don't make it to the finish, Kurt Busch doesn't win because the end of the race changed dramatically with a couple of cautions. You don't know.
Yeah.
So again, kudos to those guys. We got to run all 500 laps, and the fans, which is a huge crowd. It's one of the longest times we've waited in the parking lot after a race at Bristol in a handful of races, a handful of years, to wait to get out because they hold the parking lot so to allow the fans get access to their cars without all the traffic going by. So we were actually held there for a close 40 minutes, and that's normally not the case. So kudos to Bristol for making that decision, NASCAR making the decision, and being able to run all 500 laps.
All right, we've got a lot more to come here on Motorsports Monday. We're going to talk a little truck and Xfinity racing coming up. The trucks begin their playoffs. The Xfinity drivers head to Road America. 2 road course events this weekend. Cup is off. We'll talk about all that next.
Grunt style. The American fighting spirit is in everything we make. We are 500 patriots and veterans strong, bringing clothing manufacturing back to the United States of America. Always moving forward, never retreating, never giving up. We are Grunt Style, and this we'll defend. Get yours at gruntstyle.com.
I'm not blooming good, I'm blooming great. Put a shrimp on the barbie and sizzle my steak. Woo, I want that onion to bloom, and it get in my senses like a sonic boom. No rules, just right. So bold, so nice, and I'm so ready for that Outback steak tonight. Outback Steakhouse, that's what it's all about. Outback Steakhouse. Blooming great.
Driver safety is the #1 priority in racing. It's also the #1 priority in trucking. The Detroit Assurance Suite of safety systems helps to protect drivers, their trucks, and other motorists by helping to mitigate the severity of collisions. Active brake assist, adaptive cruise control, and lane departure warning, all bringing a new level of safety and protection to the road. Don't just want better business solutions, demand them. Learn more at demanddetroit.com.
1 lap to go at Bristol. Johnny Sauter will be regular season champion, but will he win the race tonight?
Friesen not close enough to make any sort of move. This time off of 2. Again, he's sideways, but down the back straightaway. 3 truck lengths in hand for Johnny Sauter over Stuart Friesen.
Here he comes off of turn number 4 to pick up his 5th win of the season. And first at Bristol, Johnny Sauter wins the UNOH 200 here tonight at the Bristol Motor Speedway.
You heard Kyle Rickey there mention 5 wins for Johnny Sauter this year. The former champ is rounding into form as the playoffs continue. Had a chance to talk to Johnny pre-race, and remember earlier this season he was on the show and told us this is a dream season for him, his best season. I asked him if he still felt that way before the race at Bristol, and he said yes. So I'm sure he does now as they get set to head to Canadian Tire Motorsport Park in Bowmanville, Ontario.
We're looking at a 2-time Truck Series champion at the end of Homestead at 2018.
You think so? You're making that prediction right
suspension. I believe some other trucks have maybe more speed, like the Brett Moffitt truck has a little more speed. Justin Haley might have a little more speed, but I think the experience of all the leadership, and when Johnny Sauter's been around for a very long time, he's just now finding his groove. Unless this team has a catastrophic failure during one of the playoff rounds.
Or at Homestead.
I see him not easily, but I see him walking out of Homestead with his second truck championship.
Here's what Johnny had to say after his victory at Bristol.
Well, somebody asked me earlier tonight, they're like, you going to race tonight? You got the championship locked up. I'm like, well, yeah, duh, you know. That's what we're here to do. So, yeah, it was great. I think we finished second in both first and second stage, and then, you know, you get the win. So, yeah, just a shot in the arm, momentum boost. To me, the coolest thing about it all is the bonus points for the win tonight. Obviously, the bonus points for the regular season championship, and then, you know, the 4 wins prior to this. So I feel like we've got a good little bit of a base there. I'm not a road race expert by any means. And so Talladega's in that first round, so I'm you know, I feel pretty good about where we're at, but we still got to race hard, and we intend on doing that. I know we've built a brand new speedway truck to go to Talladega, and GMS speedway stuff's always been wicked fast. So yeah, I mean, we just have to execute and you know, keep digging.
2 things there about Johnny Sauter. A, asking him if he's going to race is like asking him if he's going to breathe. I mean, yes is always the answer if you ask Johnny Sauter that. And the 15 bonus points for the regular season championship he mentioned with the road course and with Talladega coming up, those are the kind of things that can propel you to the next round if you do have bad luck at one of those wild card tracks.
That's exactly right. You have that bonus points, and you can clearly hear, and what I'm listening for, they understand how the point system works. They get, yes, they're going to go out. They're going to get as many bonus points as they can in playoff wins and stage wins and race wins, because they understand it gives them a little bit of a buffer to have, again, not that the road course is a wild card, but it is for Johnny because he's not a good road course racer. And he said that. But we go to Talladega in the round, and that is a wild card. You can be running up front. We've seen clearly the last several races, first, second, third place cars, vehicles, trucks gets wrecked.
I remember a few years ago when Hornaday was kicking butt, early in that race he wound up on his lid. So I mean, crazy things happen.
Yep. So again, it's going to be a very strong performance. We got Johnny Sauter, Noah Grayson, Grant Stewart, Brett, Ben, Justin, Matt. Matt's a previous champion. Their performance has been off a little bit since going to the Fords, just a little bit. Matt still has some victories.
Look at those playoff points, though.
And that's
42 for Johnny.
Exactly right. And that's going to really solidify themselves if they have an issue in one of those stages not to make Homestead. Not that he's locked his way into Homestead, but he'd have to have a catastrophic event in more than one race to not make Homestead with those playoff points. So kudos, those guys had a great season. He's the series regular champ, which has a really cool trophy now.
Yeah, it does. It used to not be so much.
Exactly
it was like a little plaque before,
exactly right. They're actually making a point to celebrate the regular season for those guys. But kudos to Johnny. I don't see with him and his crew chief,
Joe Shear.
Joe Shear, they've been together. They're just on it.
They just click. They really
they're just
do.
on it. Yep.
Don't forget now, this race for the trucks is on Sunday at Canadian Tire Motorsport Park. We'll have live coverage here on the Motor Racing Network of the Chevrolet Silverado 250. Comes your way at 2 o'clock Eastern time on Sunday, so make sure you adjust your schedules for that. No cup race this weekend. The trucks race on Sunday, first playoff race for them. Last year's winner, Austin Cindric, and the 2 previous winners, remember 3 years ago, I think it was Cole Custer and John Hunter Nemechek had the scrap at the start-finish line.
Yep.
My question to you is, if somebody takes out the leader on the last lap, how can you penalize them now? Because they've let it go for 3 years now. Don't you have to let it go again?
That's one of those. I'm glad I'm not in the shoes of NASCAR taking away a victory. To my knowledge, we haven't had a victory taken away since Sears Point years ago with Ricky Rudd, Davey Allison. That was, man,
long time.
Late 80s, I want to say. Long.
Back when we had hair.
Yes, thank you. I was going with that. Long time to take away a victory. They really want these drivers to settle it on the track. And if it involves you bumping, they understand that the next race you're going to enter probably won't go as well for you as if you're going to take away a victory from somebody personally as a competitor. They expect that to be retaliated against to a point that you're going to get that. So NASCAR's really not going to take a victory away unless there's something really harborous about an action. So we're going to see great activity up there in Canada. It's a road course that I've talked about numerous times on the show. You pass under braking, you pass under throttle, you pass under acceleration.
Elevation changes.
Exactly right. Very, very good road coursing action with the trucks.
All right, let's talk quickly about the Xfinity Series. As we mentioned, they go road racing this weekend. Kyle Larson, as you discussed earlier, an on-track, off-track, gets the victory there. But Christopher Bell finishes second, and he is getting it done. Look at him there, finishing second. But in the standings right now, Bell is the overall leader. Justin Allgaier just won the last time we went to a road course at Mid-Ohio. Excellent road racer. And Elliott Sadler, don't overlook him, third in the standings. And he says, he had said earlier, this is his last year.
Yep, and I believe once you understand this is your last, all drivers drive 100%, right? We all, I'm driving, I'm giving it my all, I'm having 100%. Somehow or another, drivers find a way to switch into a fourth gear and find out a way to give 101%. You're now going to see Elliott Sadler's 101% for the rest of this year, because he knows at Homestead in 2018 he's going to take the helmet off, his last time being able to race full time for any series is what his comments were. So I really believe Elliott Sadler, and he has the experience, and that's the only advantage he has right now, because all of his junior motorsports teammates have been performing very well. Christopher Bell over at Joe Gibbs Racing, very, very well, but Elliott Sadler is the most experienced driver that's been through this down. He's finished second numerous times in the point standings. Now I see him being at Homestead as the champion for the Xfinity Series.
Don't overlook Justin Allgaier either. He's got a ton of experience as well. But back on Elliott Sadler for a second, had a chat with him Friday at Bristol. We'll have that coming up on NASCAR Live Tuesday night at 7 Eastern. A lot of stuff about his plans, the whys and the wherefores of why he decided to hang up the helmet now, some of the stuff he's looking forward to. A really cool chat with Elliott. We'll have that on NASCAR Live Tuesday at 7 o'clock Eastern Time. The Xfinity race comes your way on Saturday. It's the Johnsonville 180 from Road America. That comes your way at 2:30 Eastern Time Saturday. Jeremy Clements, the defending winner there. So it just goes to show you how crazy road courses are. Anybody with a halfway decent car can find themselves in victory lane.
Anytime we go to a road course, it takes the car and equipment to second priority. It puts the driver as first priority, and that's why both series and both drivers and all the crews like going to a road course, because it elevates your driver's performance. Johnny Sauter understands he still has good equipment, but he's the weak link. Now you put the guys that are good road course racers, as we saw with Jeremy Clemens, didn't have top equipment, but he was able to carry that car to the lead and really run a good race last year and was able to come out with victory.
A lot of drama on the road races for sure. One more segment here on Motorsports Monday as we look ahead to this weekend's action before we get set for the Cup Series to return at Darlington in 2 weeks.
I'm not blooming good, I'm blooming great. Put a shrimp on the barbie and sizzle my steak. Woo, I want that onion to bloom, and it get in my senses like a sonic boom. No rules, just right. So bold, so nice, and I'm so ready for that Outback steak tonight. Outback Steakhouse, that's what it's all about. Outback Steakhouse.
Whatever you drive, wherever you go, Hercules Tires will get you there. Whether you're running on dirt or running a job, our dependable, high-quality tires are the perfect fit for your needs. For unmatched value, selection, and warranty with industry-leading road hazard protection, there's only one choice: Hercules Tires. To learn more, visit HerculesTire.com or call 800-677-9535. Hercules Tires, right on our strength.
Are you a serious die-cast collector? Do you have a favorite driver? Are you looking for a gift for a race fan? No matter what the question, the answer is always PlanBSales.com. Plan B has all the latest in die-cast from Lionel and apparel, artwork, and other items for your favorite driver in NASCAR or other forms of racing. Go to PlanBSales.com, key your driver's name in the handy search window, and look at all the options. Your one-stop for die-cast and other motorsports collectibles is PlanBSales.com.
I'm Ryan Blaney, and you're listening to MRN Motorsports Monday with championship spotter Joey Meier and Woody Cain. That world-class Joey Meier. I don't want to say that. It's on radio. You guys need to use that.
Take two.
To MRN Motorsports Monday with championship spotter and adequate pilot Joey Meier and Woody Cain.
Blaney really loves you, doesn't he?
We have a bond. Yeah, we have
you
a bond.
can tell.
Yeah,
it comes through.
Yeah, speaking of Blaney, he's got the throwback mullet growing back.
Yep,
after the Penske, we got a couple of weeks coming up. Darlington is fantastic with our throwback weekend. I grew up with a kid, nothing says throwback more than my STP sticker
Oh,
on
yeah.
my notebooks. And if you're looking for more power under the hood, you need to start at the gas tank with STP Ultra 5-in-1 Fuel System Cleaner. STP, it's inside every great machine.
STP, fantastic, and it's one of the iconic brands of the sport. A lifetime deal with Richard Petty, and everybody looking forward to Throwback Weekend. What's the throwback scheme for the 2-car?
We have a black and gold Old Rusty scheme that they're going to unveil, I believe, this week. You'll get to see a picture of it if you use.
I saw a little bit around social media.
Yeah. The internet tends to have a little more secrets being told, but I think they're going to display the car this weekend on Race Hub.
Now we're going to do a little throwback action here on Motorsports Monday next week as well. We're going to come in with hair.
Hair, absolutely. Yeah.
That would be a throwback.
Yeah, well, I have plenty of hair elsewhere on my body.
Yeah, just not on top.
Just not on top. That's exactly right.
Going to be a lot of fun. Make sure you're here. Final thoughts before we wrap up. Heading to Road America. We talked a lot about Canadian Tire Motorsport Park, but that course at Road America is 4.4 miles long, I believe, 4.5 miles long.
Requires at least, we're going to have, 4 to 5 spotters, depending on how many people you have personnel. It's really the only drawback of Road America is the length of it. And it's not so bad when the cars are going fast.
But under caution.
It's like one of those places that I think NASCAR almost uses 2 pace cars.
Yeah.
You know, depending on where they'll get a pace car on the back side of the track, so they don't have to wait for the cars to get around to the front side. It's the only drawback of Road America is its length, which is why we talk about running the boot at Elmira, Watkins Glen, not getting rid of keeping the boot away because the track distance is just over 2 miles.
Yeah.
But Road America, again, another fantastic race course.
That's just a great area.
Exactly right, and a good place. Again, people go there for a weekend to entertain themselves, and it's an event at Road America. But what a great weekend. Again, the Cup guys are off. We're gathering our breath. We got 2 more races before the playoffs with Darlington, the throwback weekend, and then we go to Indy before we start our 10th race to the season. So this will be our last major break for the Cup guys. Again, catching our breath because
we won't likely see a lot of Cup guys in either the Xfinity or the truck race because this is the last off weekend they have.
That's exactly right. I'm sure guys like Carl Larson they'll go racing somewhere. But they're not going to race an Xfinity or a truck race. Yep.
Yeah. Quickly, you mentioned it earlier, but Casey Cain deciding to step aside, Elliott Sadler stepping aside, Kurt Busch mentioning that there has been a lot of swirl around his future. The game of musical chairs is heating up.
You know, when you talk about drivers retiring early, we have to remember that they started early. Years ago, drivers didn't start until they were 30, 35 years old. So when they had a 20-year season, the Harry Gants, the Dale Earnhardts, the Darrell Waltrips, they were in their 50s. Now drivers are retiring at their late 30s, early 40s. It's a very common process.
Absolutely it is. Stick with us here all week on MRN because we've got a lot coming up. Tuesday night at 7 o'clock Eastern Time, Mike Bagley on NASCAR Live. We'll have that Elliott Sadler interview for you there. On Saturday, the Johnsonville 180, the Xfinity Series from Road America. That one comes your way 2:30 Saturday. On Sunday, the Chevy Silverado 250 from Canadian Tire Motorsport Park, 2 Eastern Time on Sunday. I'm Woody. He's Joey. See you right back here next week.